Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Now, yesterday I was creating a video using the audio files, and my assumption was that on the first two passes, the Brian Kohberger's White Elantra stopped for 2 to 3 minutes each loop. And there's other audio, however, on the third loop that I have, and you can hear the what could be the Elantra leaving, and therefore it would actually be heading, I think, east, obviously, because we can't hear it come back in, so that means it's probably coming back in on Willanta Drive on the left-hand side of the screen when you're looking at a map. So it kind of mimics I think it's pass number 2. So 2 and 3 are similar. And in that case, he wouldn't have waited more than, like, maybe if he did, it would be like 4 or 5 seconds on pass number 3. And he drove away. And then when he came back, he may have seen that there were lights on in the front of the house, indicating that somebody was awake. And that's why he turned around and came back. So let me just show you where we're at here. I'll give you all the different directions. So remember, this is 329.27. We show that a Elantra drives by right here on Linda Lane, and it's the same suspect vehicle that passed the A&W right here earlier on Steiner and then Lauder Avenue, and then it makes its way up to Taylor Avenue, and right here we see it at 3:29 and let's just say 46 seconds or so, driving by right here, and then it pulls into the area and it goes back here. So it actually comes in and then comes back here and then drives around, and then it waits here for a couple minutes, and that's represented right here. So here's the 327 or 329.27, and let me fast forward, and this is about when we hear the audio of it driving by Linda Lane over there. So let me give you the full audio of that. It sounds like this. So see that sound? Kind of a higher pitch. And then here it is at 3:30:56. So a minute 13 later. All right, and then let's fast forward it to the next indicator. And then at 3:34:12, you can hear it driving out there on Taylor Avenue, heading east. All right. Then let's move forward. It must have came around and came back around on Willanta Drive. So the full loop would be after it came back like this, drove back around, came around, and then exited and went this direction, and then drove around like this, and then it drove by the, Ann Taylor's verified sighting of Brian Kohberger's Elantra, drives this direction, and comes around, and then back around on Willanta Drive, and then back into the area again. All right, that's why you can't hear it come back into the area, because the camera that's on this building can hear this vehicle driving by, but has a very difficult time hearing this one over here driving. So let's go to the next one, 3:39:07. That's when it came back in. Okay, then it sits back there for 2 or 3 minutes. So that means after we see it drive around like this, the vehicle stays in this area for 2 or 3 minutes. Then, let's move forward to the next one. At 3:42:49, you hear it driving away on Taylor Avenue. Listen. Okay, now on this trip, he's gone for quite a while because apparently the vehicle makes it even over here to this gas station. I think it's I think it's an Exxon. I can't remember now exactly. I don't have the labels turned on. Let's see if I turn that on. Mobile. It's a mobile gas station. So right here, and there's surveillance footage of what looks to be a Elantra coming back this direction. And then quite a bit later, at like 3:55-ish, it comes back into the area. So let's play that. So that it's 3:43 when it left. You hear it driving by after waiting for 2 or 3 minutes. And now it's 3:55:46. Listen. And I'm not sure what's going on with the blinking on the screen there. Let me see if I can fix that. Yeah, just wiggling it, fixed it. So you can hear it sounds exactly the same audio frequency when that car drives by. Okay, now that was 3:55:55, and then a minute 13 or 12 later, very consistent. We see it here at 3:56:57. And so we originally, if we go back, see it's 3:55:46. And then a minute and 11 seconds later, it's coming back behind 500 Queen Road. Okay, so what we have here is after it left for a while, it came back this same direction like this, came around, and then at 3:57 we see it back here. And that now if he did the 2 to 3 minute wait like normal, he would likely be here when the DoorDash driver showed up. However, there is audio. I was just showing you that theory, and I came across it as I was talking, but I'm not even sure I marked it on my Adobe Premiere, but it's marked now, but it's just right there at 3:58. Watch. So at 3:57:11. So let's just do the same type of timing we were doing before. So right when the vehicle comes around the corner, you see the light. 3:56:57. All right. So now let's move it forward. And so it's 3:56:57. And it's 3:58:22. Let's go back again. 3:56:57. So that would be a minute 25. So maybe he stopped for 10 seconds or so, looking into the window, and he drove away again. All right, because listen to this audio here. Watch. Very similar sounding at 3:58:31. So that would be the Elantra driving away this way again, like this, driving away, and likely just doing the same loop again and coming back in this direction and then entering onto Queen Road. All right, so let's keep playing that. And then let's forward it. So while he's driving around on this last loop, that's when the DoorDash driver shows up. Okay, this is the most likely scenario. However, it's very possible that he was still sitting there and that's a different vehicle driving by there. It's just hard to say, but I mean, given the hour in the morning, it's most likely that Elantra. So 3:59:11. There's a sound of a vehicle driving by, and that's when I'm wondering if the DoorDash driver is driving like a Prius, something that's very quiet when it drives. All right, and I'm going to move it forward, and then at 3:59:46. Those very possibly could be the DoorDash driver locking his door, or letting Xana know that he's there. So that's at 3:59:54. Then there's like a 30-second gap, And then at 4 o'clock and 26 seconds, they beep again. Alright, and then I'll move it forward. And then at 4:01:07, it's likely driving away at this point. You can hear it. In the background, it's just not as loud. Whatever type of vehicle it isn't very loud. Alright, then let's move it forward. And we can't hear the Elantra come back with that loud sound that it makes when it would be driving west on Taylor Avenue. So therefore, it didn't do that. It drove all the way around that same loop that I just showed you. It went like this all the way around, and it came back in from this direction like this. And I'm just going to fast forward it to that spot. Here's 4:04 and 54 seconds. I'm just going to rewind it a little bit and see what that was. See, I'm wondering when you hear that really faint sound like that, if that's the vehicle driving on Walenta Drive over there. That's why you can't hear it very good, but it's maybe you can still hear the audio, because that would make sense. At 4:04:51, it's coming down Walenta Drive, and it's up kind of high enough where the audio can transfer over. When I mean by high enough, I'm talking about like right over here. When it's driving, it's high up in the air. You can actually see this residence, and even like right in here, maybe the camera that is back up in this area there can hear a vehicle driving by right there. I mean, that would be sort of an interesting thing to take a look at. But that would actually make sense. So let's go back to this and play it. So 4:04:51, it's up there on Walenta Drive. And then I'm just going to move it forward to the next sound. So just this is the 4:04:54. You can hear the end of it there. And then 4:05:31, so just 37, 30, I guess 36 or 7 seconds later, the vehicle spotted right here, and that makes sense. That actually makes sense. If it's just right here when you hear that sound, it comes around, and he's much quicker on this last route, that's for damn sure. So he comes around, pulls in, and he drives right here, and the light shows up on this camera. There's a camera right there, and it shows up right there at 4:05:31. And this might be where he was on the same route that he was always taking, but then he realized the light was on and there was some activity up in Xana's room, so he wanted to go double check it. So this is where he turns around. Okay, he drives back right into there. Backs up, comes back in here. It's an actual 3-point turn as well. He does 2 of them. And then it drives out from behind there. Now we're just going to move it forward to the next time. It shows back up here at 4:07 and 29 seconds. So if we go back to the previous time, it's 4:06 and 6 seconds when it leaves, and then when it comes back, it's just like a minute 20 later, minute 23, and so that would be the vehicle after it turned around. It came back in here, it turned around, and then drove back this direction. Now apparently it tries to stop or turn around right here, then does a 3-point turn, and then a minute 27 seconds later it comes back around after observing what was going on over here. He was just going to do it. He was ready to go. He drives around and parks his car over here at 4:08. Okay, and when I say 4:08, I don't know exactly the moment. All I can do is base it on this right here. It's 4:07 and 29 seconds. And so at 4:07:40, the vehicle is likely, since this camera is filming from right here, this direction, you see it driving by here, so 4:07:40 is probably right there, and then maybe it got over here at 4:07:55, I don't know, around 4:08 it parks right there. And then, just to sort of put it all together, the reason that Elantra is Brian Kohberger's Elantra is because at 4:08 that Elantra stopped moving right here, because at 4:20 it's leaving at a high rate of speed. So that means right around in this area at 4:08, somewhere right in here, I mean, you can actually draw like this, somewhere right inside of here, the white Elantra stopped moving and then it left at 4:20 at a high rate of speed. So that means inside, between 4:08 and 4:20, a knife sheath was left inside the residence on Madison Mogen's bed that had Brian Kohberger's DNA on it. Therefore, logic and circumstantial evidence to the highest magnitude indicates that the white Elantra that was driving around was Brian Kohberger's, unless you believe Brian Kohberger hitchhiked all the way over to 112 King Road and just got really unlucky. He hitchhiked over there. He was standing outside. He had a K-bar knife sheath. He dropped it on the ground, and then the real killer, who also had a K-bar knife or whatever, or maybe dropped the whole entire K-bar knife and the sheath on the ground, and that person ran inside the building with it, and Kohberger just stood outside looking and waiting and going, what's going on, what's going on? And then that person left, and then this other vehicle showed up that looked like a white Elantra, and Kohberger got into it and then drove away. Because no matter how you slice it or dice it, Brian Kohberger's DNA was found on the knife sheath on Madison Mogen's bed, therefore proving the white Elantra that was driving around is his. And that's exactly how a jury will look at it. Just like in the Delphi case, once you realize that Richard Allen is bridge guy, then everything else just falls into place. All right? So that is it. That is probably the most likely theory, that he didn't stop back there. It was just something that popped into my head while I was going over it, thinking that, man, if he stayed there for another 2 or 3 minutes, just like he did on the other passes, but you do hear the vehicle driving by at 4:08, and it might be that vehicle, it might be a different vehicle, but it is consistent. It's a minute 20 something later, and that's very close to the minute 13 that we hear on the other times that it leaves. So when it was entering the area on other loops, you hear it enter the area, and then about a minute 13 later is when it shows up behind the 500 Queen Road. So in this case, I guess what we could do is it's very consistent. So when we're timing it from Linda Lane, and then you see the first light, it's a minute 13. So it's a little different timing, because when we see the light as it's driving around right here, right back here, and then I say it's a minute 25 or so when we hear it over here, well, we got to take into account some of this driving right here. So, that's where the difference in time frame is. So instead of just that, you have this, and this and this are two different distances that you'd have to travel. This is consistent with that distance. So that's probably why there's an extra 10 seconds, is because it drives a little bit further. I just realized that right now. So I'm putting that at the end, all right? So I know everybody likes to nitpick every single thing that I do. Last video was just kind of me going through the audio and theorizing if it had waited for 2 or 3 more minutes. But there is other audio of it driving away and then likely coming back on Walenta Drive, since we do not hear it coming back on Taylor Avenue. And then probably just saw that the lights were on, it turned around, drove back out, and then did a 3-point turn on Queen and King, then went back around again over here, and then parked for the final time at 4:08, and then was seen speeding away at 4:20 at a high rate of speed. All right, so that's it, everybody. Thank you all for watching. I think that's going to probably be the most likely scenario. I think that likely the horn beeping sound is going to be the DoorDash driver, just given the timing. It's so perfectly right on that time frame. All right, everybody, thank you all very much for watching, and there's somebody that made a comment in the comments section pointing out that audio, and I guess I left it out of the last video because I was excited thinking, man, if that car had stopped for 2 or 3 minutes, he'd be right there when the DoorDash driver got there. But there is audio that contradicts the fact that it would pause there, and I wanted to make sure that that was out there. I have no problem fixing or changing something if I get something wrong, and so this is the actual information. So if you guys can hit that like button for me, I would appreciate it. Like the video, share, and subscribe. Again, thank you all very much for watching, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.